Hello everyone, this is Elder 360, coming to you with nothing but the absolute truth. This is the only thing I want to bring to the people of the planet Earth, the absolute truth. If I can't bring you the absolute truth, I'm not going to bring you anything at all. There is something I would like to discuss. It's problem and solution. What is the problem in our race and the human race? I was thinking, and I was thinking about how long black people stayed in slavery. And it had become a custom that basically every non-black household had slaves for hundreds of years. And as I thought about it, a question came to my mind. If someone haven't let you go in hundreds of years, or given you any peace in hundreds of years, is it possible for them to want to give you peace now? That's my question. If you have been treated inhuman, not by all people, but by a system that's designed to actually cater to one race more than others, or other races more than the black race. Can you expect the same people or the same system to give you freedom? Now that's the question. So when we think about it, from my study, basically every other race of people other than the black race had black slaves. And black people had black slaves too, but I'm speaking from another angle. I'm speaking of the time of slavery. I hear in Cuba, they had black slavery 100 years before slavery began in America. And it's just been a natural thing for other races to actually enslave black people on the planet. I'm not being racist or anything of that nature. I'm just bringing you the absolute truth. Basically, what is identified as the Arabs today, you can buy a slave for $400 in Africa as I speak. So the Italians basically had black slaves and was warring with, the African nations. Germany, every other race basically on this planet basically have headquarters in Africa. And it hasn't been a few years, but it's been for hundreds of years. So it seems as though an agreement has been made among many different nations to actually oppress the black race. Not being racial or anything of that nature, but just speaking the truth. Now, if you don't believe it, in Africa, there's over 200 countries, and black people don't run neither one of them. They definitely don't run the United States. They definitely don't run Canada. They definitely don't run Europe. Where on the planet does black people run a country? Now, just reasoning with that, you must think that there has to be a plan in order for something like that to happen. If every race on the planet have their own country, have their own army, I'm talking about effective army, Air Force, Navy, you don't see any news where in Africa they are planning on attacking the United States, or attacking Germany, or dropping bombs on other countries. You don't see them flying jets and drones and things of that nature over in other countries. Am I right or wrong? So basically, economically, we are mostly consumers and not producers. It's just like it's pre-planned to actually keep black people all over the planet in this state of dependence. When you look at the money, I think it's like three black billionaires out of all the billionaires. I could be wrong, but it's a small number. And then when you look at our wealth, we own less than 1% of the wealth on the planet. Now, it seems to me that is a system designed to actually keep a person down. Now, I know everybody has someone who is oppressing them. Even in your family, each and every individual has somebody in their family that doesn't agree with them and that will oppress them, that would do something negative to make them upset, or try to do things to keep them from getting ahead. So I'm not saying that everybody don't have this to deal with in some way, shape, fashion, or form, but just looking at it on a race scale, looking at it through a race microscope. We are the last on the totem pole. I heard many people say at first we was number 2 in America. Then we moved to number 3. Now we are number 4. I mean, we are below number 4 now, because other races has come in and took advantage of the free gifts and things that they gave them, and won't give the individual that is an offspring of people that's been in slavery for hundreds of years. Now, the system, I don't agree with showing partiality to anyone, but I'm just speaking some facts. And this is something that we must get over, oppressing other people, because you'll never have peace on this planet that way. Now, I know they had white slaves during the time there was black slaves, and that's I mean, that's bad. You know, all of it's bad. But I know that there are many people in every race that has been oppressed, but I'm just speaking of this particular situation. I want to put some universal physics in this scenario. You know that there's a lot of hate going on among many races, and most races hate the black race. Most everybody in every other race hate the black race. I'm not saying everybody, but the majority of every race dislike black people. Now, say if you have an east and a west side, I want to show you what's going to happen. First, I got ahead of myself a little, but first let me give you an illustration that God gave me. And my goal is to help free all people from physical, mental, spiritual, and financial slavery. Now, what I talked about, it really exists. You got a lot of hate among people, dislike among people. But God gave me an illustration to actually share with the people on the planet to make them think from a universal level. Now, reason with me. I will speak about three entities: the willpower, the action of willing for something to be. I will bring up the facts to prove that when you will for something good or bad to be for another, you're automatically using the only force in the universe that causes things to manifest or materialize. The law of repetition is the other fact we was talking about, another entity. I will prove that there is a law of repetition in God's creation the way God proved it to me, so I could pass it on to everybody, because this illustration is so simple, a fool need not error. And then we will talk about the law. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. This law makes everything in creation that we create on another be prepared for ourselves to reap. We can't reap anything that we have not sown. So we must create the positive or negative for someone before we can receive the positive or negative. So let's begin with the law. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Everything in the universe is an entity with a purpose that it serves. An entity is one individual thing. When you look at the sand on the ground like God had me to look at, I found that each grain is separate and has its own purpose. When you look at the trees, you can see all over the planet, each tree is separate and has its own purpose. When you think about the animals, the birds, the atoms, the protons, the neutrons, the electrons, each one is separate and has its own purpose. Each one is an entity. Now, if God said Everybody can get $1 billion if they could show something in God's creation that is not an entity with a purpose that it serves. Nobody get one dime of that money. Correct? Without a shadow of a doubt. Now, the law for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Is an individual law. This is a universal law that makes it possible for us to prepare the things that we reap. We can't reap anything that we have not sown. The law for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, meaning the reaction is equal on both sides. Whatever you create, positive or negative for someone, you prepare the positive or negative for yourself to reap. Now, let's talk about the law of repetition. The Creator has a law of repetition in His universe. This law makes everything in creation repeat the same basic patterns over and over and over again. And this is the illustration that God, the intelligence that governed the entire universe, gave me to make me know without a shadow of a doubt, whatever I do to someone, it comes back to me automatically. Now here's the illustration. Winter, spring, summer, and fall repeat themselves every year. The earth rotates in a circle. The planets rotate around the sun in a circle. We eat and get hungry over and over again. This is what the Creator was showing me. This is what that intelligence that governed the entire universe was showing me, that everything has a repetitious pattern or a repetitious nature. Day and night take the place of each other over and over again. Everything that grows from the ground eventually returns back to the ground. We give off carbon dioxide. Plants take in the carbon dioxide, convert it into oxygen. We inhale the oxygen, convert it back into carbon dioxide. Go to sleep. We go to sleep and wake up over and over again. Inhale, exhale over and over again. Our blood runs through our bodies over and over again. Our heart beat over and over again. Everything made by man or woman, the car, the computer, the light bulb, the telephone, all the machinery, does the same basic thing over and over again. So this is what the Creator was bringing to my attention. It's impossible to find one thing in the universe that doesn't have the same basic repetitious pattern or repetitious nature. So it proves without a shadow of a doubt that there is a law of repetition if everything in the universe has a repetitious pattern or a repetitious nature. Taking it to a level that I'm fully aware of, darkness give off its opposite, which is space, over and over again. Space give off its opposite, which is matter, over and over again. The matter that space gave off didn't have any emotion or creative ability at first, so it manifests into matter with all motion and all creative ability over and over again. This shows how spirits are born into the universe. Once you basically understand the physics that I understand, you'll see that what I said is an absolute truth. Matter cannot exist without space. So back to the law of repetition. If God said everybody can get $1 billion if they could show one thing in the universe that doesn't have the same basic repetitious pattern or repetitious nature, nobody get one dime of that money. So we have two laws. The law for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, and the law of repetition. The law for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, causes it to be possible for us to prepare the things that we reap, and the law of repetition makes every entity in the universe repeat the same basic patterns over and over again. Now, let's speak about the willpower, the action of willing for something to be. This is what God brought my attention to. God showed me everything created by God got its existence after God willed to create it. And everything made by man or woman got its existence after men and women willed to create them. Before a bird fly or a fish swim, they must will to do that. What was being brought to my attention is that before the activity take place, the will for the activity must exist before the activity could take place. The will to create a creation must exist before the creation itself. Now, if God said everybody can get $1 billion who can show anything created or made by any living thing, before that living thing will for it to be, nobody get one dime. You got the will to eat, will to drink water. You got the will to say what you say. You got the will to think, No matter what it is, this is what God was bringing to my attention. The action of willing for it to exist must exist before the creation itself. Now, the second fact to add to this, what the Creator gave me is a very important fact we already spoke about, is that everything in the universe is one individual thing. Everything in the universe is an entity. An entity is one individual thing. Each grain of sand separate has its own purpose. Every atom, proton, neutron, electron, quartz, lasers, or strain is separate, has its own purpose. Every star, every cloud, every planet, every string of hair on our head, every finger, every teeth in our mouth, or every tooth in our mouth. No matter what it is, every fruit that grows on a tree, every leaf on a tree, is one individual thing. So if God said everybody can get $1 billion if they can show something that's not one individual thing with a purpose that is served in the universe anywhere, nobody could get one dime. And this is what I like about these universal facts. They actually make it possible for there to be no doubt about anything. Now, if everything is one individual thing, this means the action of willing for something to be is one individual action. Now, that was amazing to me. I said, wait a minute, you mean to tell me when I will for something to be, or when anybody will for something to be, that's one individual action, and it has a purpose that it serves? Now, let's add this up. If before anything is created, the action of willing must be done first, and if everything is an entity, that means the action of willing is one individual action, has its own purpose, and its only purpose is to make things manifest or materialize. That's the only purpose that the will serves. And this is why we have the saying, where there's a will, there's a way, or when Yeshua, Esau, Jesus, Emmanuel, Jesus, said, not my will, but thy will be done. That's what he was speaking of, because the action of willing is what make everything manifest. So my thing is this: even when Yahweh say, "Do my will," will the same thing that Yahweh want to happen, and you are using the only force in the universe that make things happen. Now, the third and final fact is this: everything that's created by God exists in a variety. Everything created by Yahweh, whatever name you decide to call the creator of the universe, that intelligence that governs the entire universe, there isn't but one God, basically, that governs every living thing. There's a head of everything. There's one thing that existed first. Everything that exists in a variety started from one of them first. So there had to be one